All right, good morning. We are going to learn some new techniques for the next couple of weeks to help improve our writing. Throughout the school year, we've talked a lot about showing versus telling. And when we can show with our words, our reader gets a better image in their mind as to what we also are imagining in our minds. So we are going to be working with what we call brushstrokes. And these are 5 actually grammar techniques that will help you improve your writing. And the first one that we're going to start with is the participle. And what will happen is each week I'll do a little lesson on one of them, and then we'll practice throughout the week. And then as we go forward, we will write different pieces or continue writing pieces using these different brushstrokes. Writers like artists paint images. Robert Newton Peck talked about this when he was writing a book called Secrets of Successful Fiction. Readers want a picture, something to see, not just a paragraph to read. A picture made out of words. That's what makes a pro out of an amateur. An amateur writer tells a story. A pro shows the story, creates a picture to look at instead of just the words to read. A good author writes with a camera, not with a pen. The amateur writes, Bill was nervous. The pro writes, Bill sat in a dentist's waiting room, peeling the skin at the edge of his thumb until the raw, red flesh began to show. Biting the torn cuticle, he ripped it away and sucked at the warm sweetness of his own blood. That first sentence is telling. We are telling our reader that Bill is nervous. The second sentence shows us that Bill is very, very nervous. He's peeling the skin around his thumb. He's making it so it's raw, and then it begins to bleed, and then he sucks that blood. So you can tell he's really, really nervous about going into that dentist's office. Writers paint images like Peck's example in a couple of different ways. All right. And we're going to be learning about 5 different grammatical structures that we're going to call brushstrokes because we're talking about painting our stories with words. And so our first one is going to be the participle. We're going to learn about that one today. And then later in the semester, we'll learn about the absolute, the appositive, adjectives shifted out of order, and action verbs. So to examine each of the brushstrokes, we will follow 4 simple steps. We'll look at some simple definitions of the brushstroke. Then we will begin with a short, simple sentence that describes an image. And then we'll use an imaginary zoom lens that will help us either see or imagine a close-up detail. And finally, we'll add a brushstroke that captures that close-up detail. So the first one we are going to talk about is the participle brushstroke. A participle is an ing word placed at the beginning or the end of a complete sentence. Okay, don't place the participle in the middle of the sentence or it might become part of the verb. So I was walking to the store, that participle, walking, is part of the verb. And we don't want that when we're trying to make our readers see what we see. All right. So there are other types of participles, but you only need to know this type to get us started. So if we take a look at this snake here, we're going to create, and they've actually created for us, but if you'd like to create a different one, you may, a short, simple sentence of the image that you want to describe. So when we are writing, you need to visualize the image and then create a simple sentence that tells exactly what is happening. So in this image, you might write, the diamondback snake attacked its prey. Imagine you are a photographer viewing the rattlesnake through a camera zoom lens. Look for specific details that you want to capture and use it in step 4. This zoom lens is unique. It allows you to examine visual details that you can see and imaginary details that you can't see or hear. For example, you might see the snake's curled body ready to strike and observe the diamond pattern on its skin. But with this zoom lens, you can also use your imagination to describe things you can't actually see, like the sputtering sound of the snake's rattle or the slithering movement of its body. So here we have the snake. So think about and look at this image. What types of things do you see and hear? Use your five senses. Probably don't want to taste this one. But think about the five senses and how can you use that to write and describe what's going to happen in this story. Now, in order to use a participle, what you're going to do is think of a couple of things that you were visualizing and then turn them into ing words. All right, turn them into participles. So the example here is hissing, slithering, and coiling. The diamondback snake attacked its prey. So the diamondback snake attacked its prey was one of the parts of the original sentence. And all we've done is we've added some words, some ing words that help give the reader a visual, that help give the reader something that they can hold on to in their mind. Or you could choose to add one or two participial phrases. A participial phrase is just a participle, an ing word, with other modifying words attached to it. So hissing its forked red tongue and coiling its cold body. The diamondback snake attacked its prey. Note, adding one or two participle phrases at the beginning or the end of a sentence can strengthen an image. However, 3 phrases usually don't work. And actually in writing, usually 3 is a magic number, and you want to do things in 3s, but in the case of participles, you do not. It just becomes tedious to the reader. All right, let's complete this again. Step 1. A participle is an ing word placed at the beginning of an end of the complete sentence. Don't place the participle in the middle, or it might become part of the verb. Step 2. Create a short, simple sentence about the image you want to describe. Now we have a bull rider. All right. For the image on the right, you might write a short sentence like, the cowboy needed to stay on another 15 seconds to win. Imagine you're the photographer and really zoom in on the picture. Look at the different things that you might notice. You might notice that the cowboy has his hand up in the air. You might notice that he's wearing a black hat that's staying on. You might notice that the bull that he's on is looking straight at the camera, and he's not looking very happy. You might notice that there's maybe 4 or 5 feet between the ground and the bull's back legs when he's kicking up. Think about all the different things you can look at. You might even see the crowd. It might have something to do with the crowd. On the 4th step, you have 2 choices. You can add 3 ing participle brush strokes like this. Struggling, holding, hoping. The cowboy fought to stay on long enough to win. Or you can add 1 or 2 participial phrases, and that means a phrase with other modifying words attached to it. So struggling with each sledgehammer kick of the bull, holding tight with one hand, the cowboy fought to stay on long enough to win. So struggling is the participle, but when you add struggling with each sledgehammer kick of the bull, you get a participial phrase. Holding is the participle, but adding holding tight with one hand, you end up with a participial phrase. Here are a few more examples of participles created by well-known authors. The first example is taken from Robert Ludlum's The Born Identity. The man got up out of the chair with difficulty, pushing himself up with his arms, holding his breath as he rose. Now remember, they talked about not putting these participles in the middle of the sentence because it might become part of the verb. So pushing himself up with his arms and holding his breath as he rose, that's at the end of the sentence. He could also change it to pushing himself up with his arms, holding his breath as he rose. The man got out of the chair with difficulty. All right, it could go at the beginning or at the end. Ernest Hemingway in Old Man and the Sea wrote, shifting the weight of the line to his left shoulder and kneeling carefully, he washed his hands in the ocean and held it there, submerged for more than a minute, watching the blood trail away and the steady movement of the water against his hand as the boat moved. So shifting the weight of the line and kneeling carefully are participles. Watching the blood trail away, another participial phrase. You'll notice Ernest Hemingway put the participial phrases at the beginning and at the end of his basic sentence. He washed his hands in the ocean and held it there, submerged for more than a minute. This, he washed his hands in the ocean and held it there, submerged for more than a minute, is a telling sentence. It's telling us what he's doing. Ernest Hemingway makes this a showing sentence by adding the participial phrases to the beginning and adding them to the end. All right, now it's your turn. Review the following 3 images and select one to write about. Create one short sentence first, then use your zoom lens and decide whether you want to add 1 or 2 long participial phrases or 3 one-word participles. You're going to be going to do this on Schoology. So there will be an assignment there where you will take the next 3 images, which I'll show you, and you will be writing a sentence to describe them. This will be one of the pictures. And then the next pictures will be the volleyball player and the singer. All right, so you will end up having 3 images that you will see, and you're going to be writing 3 sentences using this new technique, the participle. We will be doing this all week long, and so you'll have different tasks that will help you improve your writing. All right, thanks a lot for coming by.